Hi, this is Becky Bonig, and this is my Pop Culture and the Aging Generations video podcast. I just made a little visual to go along with the topics I'm going to go over, and I hope you enjoy. First, I'd like to go over music. When we think of music, especially, I'm kind of focusing on nursing homes and how popular culture was and can be in our future. When you think of music in the nursing homes now, most of the generations there are from the 30s and 40s or before. I looked over music from those times, and I have them on here. The 30s and 40s was swing music, big bands, jazz, Frank Sinatra, war songs, all music. I'll go over the 50s and 60s was Elvis, Johnny Cash, Fats Domino. And then getting up into the 70s and 80s, where there's rock and roll, disco. I just have some examples: Donna Summer, the Bee Gees, the Jacksons, in the introduction of like dance pop music. So when you think of music, yeah, it's great to listen to, but an article that I found really interesting that's I posted a picture on here. Music as a healing art for older adults. Music is a huge part of popular culture, and playing music from the times that elders are from can have a really huge impact on their care, on their feeling of self-worth. It brings them back to a time where they were in their heyday, per se. Combined with cultural influences, private emotions, and personal memories, the effect of music therapy can be complex. It can really have a huge impact. On my list of references for this project, I added a YouTube video of a man named Henry. If you look up Henry, man who reacts to music of his time, he'll pop up, but it's also as a link in my references. But it's amazing to see what a person that's nonverbal from advanced dementia, who doesn't know who people are, blind, hard of hearing, but when you put music on with an iPod, what happens to him. It's just amazing. So keep that in mind when we talk about the other subjects that I want to touch on for popular culture. So what was popular, back in the 30s and 40s, per se, for foods? That was the time of they were getting back from the Great Depression. The war was going on. Foods were rationed. People ate what they could get, and it was mostly starches. They didn't have anything fancy like we do now today. And I put on here, I found a great article on generational flavors, and it really focused on baby boomers, which I'll talk about soon. But it was really, I highlighted a quote from the article. Consumers are shaped not only by their unique experiences, but also common life stages that they share with most of their generation, from getting an education to establishing a career to getting married and having a family. Generational differences in lifestyles and attitudes translate into distinct needs, preferences, and expectations when it comes to food. So you think to, I'll use my experience as a nurse in a nursing home. Through Lent, we have fish on Fridays. Things like beef stroganoff, or they always get so excited about that, or things like a home cooked starchy meal they really like. They wouldn't like the foods we eat now as much as they would like a traditional, meat, vegetable, and potatoes or pasta meal. let's see. I also, let's see, I'm trying to find. Like now I'll talk about it more when I talk about millennials, but the foods, like the picture I have on the underneath generational flavors, is Wagyu meatballs with wasabi sauce and gluten-free toast, stuff like that. If you put that in front of somebody in a nursing home today, they probably wouldn't know what it was, and I'm sure, most likely wouldn't like it. So, going to the future, so what is a nursing home going to be like in the future? So the baby boomers, which is the largest generation, that's what, hence the name, baby boomers, is 1946 to 1964. A lot of children were born in this time. The baby boomers are actually starting, there's quite a few in nursing homes or nursing care at this time, because they're getting up in age. But just think, would they want to listen to swing music, when they're in rec period of a nursing home? They would probably rather listen to rock and roll, like I put up there, the Rolling Stones, something of that nature. I think it would be more laid back. It wouldn't be so institutional. It'd be more of their times. It would bring them back to when they were younger, not so much when, the elderly now. Generation X is 1965 to 1976. I would think the music going, would be like punk rock, grunge, heavy metal, hair bands. That'd be kind of fun to be a fly on the wall then, to see the atmosphere, how care was accomplished in a nursing home, trying to base their care off of a person to be more patient-centered. So that has a lot to do with their culture they experience throughout their life. So this is really important. It seems simple, but it is important in a patient's care. Millennials, which they get the most talk about lately, 1977 to 1995 is the age range. Pretty much if you look around, it says a lot of different things, a lot of different time frames for the generations. Like I always thought I was part of Generation X, but according to this, I'm not. I'm a millennial, but I'm like kind of on the cusp of being Generation X. But what comes to mind for me is for like music would be pop, rock, alternative music. And for like foods, I from the Generational Flavors article too, I grabbed things that appeal to a millennial. For like foods would be unprocessed, natural, fresh, local, grass-fed. This generation wants everything to be natural, like organic. They'll pay $5 more for the same thing if it says organic. I also really thought about too, talking about diets and foods and culturally sensitive care would also be like vegan, vegetarian options and menus selections for patients that would be, if they were in nursing care, down the road when they were in their 70s, 80s, 90s. And then finally, atmosphere. I just wanted to go over, they used to be like when you think of a nursing home, you think of very institution-like, almost like prison. People used to, when they couldn't care for a family member, they used to just drop them off and that was it. Now, like going towards the future, there's a shift out of traditional nursing home care and into home care nursing. So I think the shift, I agree with many of the articles I've read, that there is definitely a shift to get people out of the hospitals in nursing homes and into homes where they're cared for by their family, or like home care nursing, like I said. Also, a lot of multi-generational living too is going to be going on in the future, and it's going on now. A lot of the baby boomers are aging, getting older, and they're living with their children because that's the shift right now. I'm an example of that. My mother lives with me because I care for her, and she's a baby boomer. Also, in the nursing homes now, I see this as an employee there, a culture clash, which you have people in the 80s, 90s, even 100 and over, in a recreational program when they're listening to swing music, and you have someone in their 50s or 60s that's, needs the nursing care, needs to be in an institution where they're getting 24-hour care, and you're not giving them complete patient-centered care if you're not taking into account what their cultural needs are. What becoming music or foods, they don't want to eat. Maybe they don't have, there's a shift out of religion too. They have mass at nursing homes. In the future, a lot of people are not as, they don't go to church anymore, but that's another subject. But I'm just saying, like, how many changes I've even seen from working in the nursing home just for like 10 years. I've seen a major shift. Let's see. But I also, from my aging care article, how then, I'm talking about the culture clash, the generation that researchers term the very old, those over 80 and more likely in a nursing home environment, are those who grew up during the Great Depression. Like I said, they ate what they could get. Music was a huge part of their life. They didn't have TV. They didn't have Netflix. They didn't have that. They had the radio. And that's how, popular culture was back then. And it also touched on polkas and big band music. I remember my great-grandfather listening to polka. So funny. And then, thinking like the culture clash too, you have, like I said, very elderly people along with people in their 60s and 70s who would prefer rock and roll, gourmet coffee, and computers. If you put a computer in front of a 90-year-old person, they're not going to know what that is. But if vice versa, that's how people keep in touch right now, is emails and the internet. And we have to really be sensitive about what people's needs are. And that is about it. I just really wanted to, it's kind of a passion of mine to make sure that we really take into account what people need and what we can look to the future and help in changing things for the better. All right, thank you.